Been working on a new project. My brand new Shopmade dust collection system. And I've been working on it off and on for a good week now. Whenever I could get in here to the shop and work on it. And it really works good. I just tested it out, and buddy, it will clean up some sawdust. But anyway, what it is it's the Cyclone system. It's got the Cyclone action that spins. You know, it spins the bigger stuff around the Cyclone here, and it falls down into the receptacle in the bottom, and the small dust and all comes up through the filters that are in here, and then clean air gets blown out right back here. It's pretty big. It takes up a good bit of space. It will be going outside under my shed, where it will be nice and dry and out of the weather. But and I'm going to be plumbing and piping in here with dust ports and things like that a little bit later. I've got this dryer hose on here right now that I'm using just simply for testing purposes. And now the testing's over, so I'm going to have to get started on my plumbing and all. But this video is all about the build from start to finish, and I hope you'll enjoy it, and you may be able to save some money. I've got now I salvaged a bunch of parts. The motor is salvaged from my old table saw. You know, a couple trash cans, even my switch, the on-off switch, is from an old from my old air cleaner that I built. Actually, I built it on YouTube a few months back. But stick around. I'll show you how I built this thing, and we'll get this thing started. Well, all right. You may remember my little shop air cleaner that I built a few months back. I've got it hanging in my shop up in the attic part, or the roof ceiling part, and it hangs there, and I let it run, and it cleans the air in the shop. And I was just going to kind of revisit that a little bit leading into my next project. But if you remember, or if you saw the video, you know I used 2 filters, and they're just stacked on top of each other. They're just household Hvac filters. And just kind of show you what you can see. The second filter really has not got dirty. There's not very much dust that's got through it or through to it, but these are kind of the expensive sort of HEPA filter things that my wife likes. But just going to kind of blow this one out a little bit, kind of clean it. To get it put back in. Alright. Blow that out here in the shop, or outside the shop. Let's see if this one. There's a little bit in there. Not a whole lot. Alright. Anyway. This thing really works pretty good, actually. I can't complain about it. Let's go in and look at it while I've got the filters out. Well, if you remember, I used a 1/3 horsepower motor from a clothes dryer. And it's mounted on the top. It turns this pulley that turns my fan, which actually goes this direction. Goes that direction. I've got it hung up from my support beam up there by chains. I mounted mounted a switch up here, got it wired in, it's permanently wired in, and this thing really blows air. And I've got it coming out on 3 different sides to help, just to help circulate the air around the shop. Most of the air comes out there near my lathe, and you can kind of see it blows out all around the lathe out there. So you know, it circulates the air and it pulls the dust and stuff up through the bottom where the filters are. The filters just slide right into those cleats right there, and they just stack on top of each other. I decided to use a double filter, but this thing, you can see it looks like it's moving around a little bit right there, but actually that impeller is balanced really well. There's no vibration out here on the sides where the impeller may be vibrating. So this was a good build, but let me turn it off. Let me slide these in. Turn this thing off. That was a good build, and I've used it a lot. The filters, they just stack on top of each other, make sure the airflow arrows in the right direction, and they just slide in. But sometimes I have trouble getting the top one in. Oh, I know what it is. It's right there. Alright, they just slide in there like that, and this door closes up and latches. And like I was saying, that was a fun build right there. I'd never built an impeller, and I'm gonna expand on that now. And let's kind of talk about that in just a second. Okay, now that air cleaner, this air cleaner right here, it was a really fun build, and it works great for what I use it for. Just basically cleaning all the ambient air out of the shop. It really takes the dust out of here quick. But you know, it's centrally located. It's hanging high. It blows dust in these 2 directions and back this way. So it helps keep everything kind of stirred up until it can get caught in the filter. The filters, like I say, they're Hvac HEPA filters, and I don't know how much dust actually gets through them, but I do know that the second filter stays pretty clean. It's a double stack filter. The second filter really just doesn't get very dirty. So I'm going to use this type system on a new system that I'm starting to build right now. A Cyclone dust collector thing for my shop, and it'll be connected. I'll have a couple ports throughout the shop, you know, to connect my equipment to. One of the problems I have is with my table saw. Let me show you this. My bandsaw, my table saw here, you can see the dust port, and it's full of dust. You know, my shop vac just cannot pull. They put a 4-inch dust port on there for a reason, I guess. I had an adapter on there down to a 2-inch so I could use my shop vac on it, but it just doesn't work. And it's the same way over here with my bandsaw. It's got a 4-inch dust port that I had that I adapted down to 2-inch. It's just not enough. It keeps blowing the dust and stuff and all over. And you've seen my lathe. A lot of y'all's complained about, you know, about my dust situation around my lathe. Well, hopefully I'm about to fix that. Starting out, I've had to get a few parts, and I'll probably have to get some more. But I bought, you may have seen this white thing sitting under my lathe. It's just a, you know, white round garbage can. and I've had it sitting under my lathe just to kind of collect some of the big stuff that may happen to fall in it. Well, it's tapered, and it's about maybe 2.5 feet tall. And I'm sure it didn't cost anything really, not much, but it's designed to hold a tall kitchen garbage bag. But I bought these. I'm going to leave one sitting under the lathe to serve the same purpose as that. But the white one is going to become my Cyclone, and I'm going to use one of these as the basically the receptacle for all the large, you know, shavings and things like that. So I think they hold around 20 gallons, I guess. I'm not really sure. It doesn't say on the thing how many gallons. You know, it just tells it's let me see if you can see that. It's 21.5 inches diameter and 16.5 in height, but that's really all it shows. So anyway, I think it'll hold a lot of shavings, so that's what I'm going to use for my receptacle. And this one here is going to become my Cyclone. It'll be set up similar to this right here. Okay. Now I'm going to be building a new impeller, because the other one it works great on the little air cleaner, but I just don't think it'll be big enough to move the air that I want moved. Alright, well now you're looking at the heart of what is going to become my dust collector. Or actually it's not actually the heart is going to be the impeller, but this is going to be the power for it. This motor came from my old table saw. It was a Craftsman 10-inch contractor style saw, and this is a 1 horsepower motor. It turns at 3450 RPMs. So she's getting it. And I just set it back up so I could test it and make sure it runs. And it does run really well. Nice and smooth, no vibrations, no squeaking or anything like that, and it runs pretty quiet. So this is the motor I'm going to use. I think the 1 horse motor will run a dust collector for this shop anyway. So we're going to give that a shot. Alright, well, for starters, I'm going to go ahead and cut the housing for my impellers, or for my vanes. So I'm cutting 2 circles out of 1/4 inch plywood, and we'll just see how that goes. Make sure this is alright. Okay, well, I want 10 vanes on this impeller. So there's 360 degrees in a full circle, so I divide 360 by 10, I get 36. So that's the angle that I want my vanes. So I set my protractor for 36 degrees. And just mark it right there. And then I'll just come straight through, right straight through the middle to that mark. Come down and just transfer that mark all the way through the impeller. Okay, and then I'll use that one. Well, I'll come over this way and I'll do the other. Okay, 20, 30, or 10, 20, 30, 6. Okay, I'll do that. And I'll just continue doing 36-degree angles. Okay, now I need a 6-inch cutout on the inside. So I'm going to set my compass for 3 inches. And this is going to be the opening for the impeller. There'll be a 6-inch opening in the middle. Okay, now I've got my basic layout done. So, and I know my motor is going to be spinning clockwise in relation to what I'm looking at here. Okay, so what I need to do is figure out my vanes. Now, one thing I want to do, my vane is not going to come from this point to this point. Okay, that's 36 degrees, and I want to go about 45 degrees. So I'm going to come off of this line here and mark 1 at 45 degrees. Which is right here. And that's going to be 45 degrees off of this one. So, and I'll show you how I figure out how to get my vanes. Bug in here. Yeah, it finally warmed up a little bit out here. Now I'm getting bugs in the shop. Okay, so here's my 45 right here. 45. Okay, can't get confused. It's 45 degrees from here to here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my trammel. I got you. Alright, I'm going to take my little trammel and screwdriver, and I'm going to measure these points. I'm going to go from this point all the way up to the outside of my 45. So I'm going to set my pencil there. I'm going to get my glasses because I can't see without them. Okay, I'm going to set that on that point right out here at the top edge, and then I'm going to set my trammel pin right to that intersection. Double check. Okay. Alright, that should all be set up nicely. Okay, now I'm just going to strike an arc back this way. Just going to strike an arc back there, and then I'm going to take my trammel, turn it around, and do the exact opposite. Same points. Okay, get that out of the way. Come up here and strike an arc. Okay. Now where these two arcs meet, that's my radius for my vane. So I'm going to set that. Set my trammel there. And that should touch the 45 up. Yep, right at the top. It's going to come right down here to this. And that's the radius that I want for my vanes. Okay, now I'll erase these marks because I don't want to get confused later. Get rid of those. Now, I've got my radius locked into my trammel. So now I'm ready to start cutting out my my templates. I need to make a template for this because they're going to be 3 inches thick, and I don't have any 3-inch thick lumber, so I'm going to actually have to mill that down. But what I'm going to do is use a 2x4 to do that with. And I'll need 10 vanes. And let me get set up to show you how I'm going to make a template. I've already laid this out. This is going to be how I design out my vanes. Okay. Now I'm going to have to cut this out of 2x4. So this is like the 2x4 standing on the edge. Like this. And I'll be cutting the vanes out this way. Okay. That way that should get you oriented there. So so what I'm doing is I've got the center marked here, and I've got the limits of it. So when I cut my 2x4, they'll be cut to this length, and then I'll come in and I'll use these as my pattern. So what I'll do is I've still got my trammel set up. So I'm going to start out. Let me zoom you back just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, I'm going to start out. I'm just going to get my pencil up here on this point. And I'm just simulating that this is actually a 2x4. Get that on that point. Get my pen down here on this, on my center mark. And then I'm just going to make my arc. Okay. Now I'll take that center mark right there, and I want to make these things about 3/8 inch thick, because I'm going to be cutting them off with my bandsaw. I'm going to be cutting these lines with my bandsaw, and then I'm going to have to sand everything nice and smooth. So I'm going to start out at 3/8, and by the time I get done, I figure they'll be about 1/4 inch thick. So there it is. 1, 2, 3/8. 1, 2, 3/8. 1, 2, 3/8. That's probably all I'm going to get out of that first 2x4. So I'm just going to take my trammel and start hitting each one of these. Making sure that I'm dead on it. Okay. Now that's going to be my first vane right there. I'll move it back 3/8 of an inch. Okay. There's my second vane. I'll get 2 vanes out of each 2x4. Okay. Took me just a few minutes, but now I've got all my little templates to cut these things out. So now I've got to get over to the saw and mill down this 2x4. What I'm going to do is I want these vanes to be 3 inches tall. So I'm going to be cutting about 1/2 inch off the 2x4. This 2x4 is already jointed and planed, so it's good and trued up. So but I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to cut these out, just lay them on there, and I'm going to cut these all out on the bandsaw. So it'll be 3 inches tall, it'll be 5 3/8 inches wide or long, and then I'll cut them all out on the bandsaw. Well, let's look at our little test fit here. This should be the same radius as that right there. And when I put that point on there, swing this one up. That's it. It's exactly what I want. So now I'm just going to start gluing them down. Start the gluing process. Gotta open your glue first. Right there on that point. Right there on that point. Right. Next. Alright, let's see if we can't get this thing weighted down without moving anything. Well, alright. Well, the glue's set up pretty good now. It's not completely cured, but it's good enough now where I can put the cap on. This thing's a little bit, now that I'm looking at it, it looks pretty big. I hope that motor will pull it. But I'm going to put the top on here now. I made these marks earlier when I was on the bandsaw, or whenever I first cut my rings, and they were stacked together. So I'm going to line them back up. I don't know, there's this one and here's this one, and I'm just going to see, you know, there shouldn't be any deviation. They were cut at the same time, so I'm just gonna give it a try and put that on there just to make sure they go back the way that they were cut. So all I'm gonna do is just put glue on each vein. Just a nice little bead. Alright, and this one, move that stuff back out of the way. And I'll just try to line those up and get this thing as close as I can by eyeball. And I'll just use my speed square to check. Okay. Wow, that was pretty dang good positioning right off the bat. Everything lines up just about as good as I could ever hope for right there. So now I'll just put the thing back on. I'll try not to mess up. Try not to move anything. I'll just go ahead and try to put some weight back on it. Hold everything down.